I'm Mary Grothe. Welcome to my keynote, Scaling Faith. It was May 25th, 2012. I was 7 months into my journey as a first-time founder CEO, and I had finished a record month. So I did what most 28-year-old CEOs would do. I got ahead of my Memorial Day weekend with a night of drinking and partying, and when I was ready to call it a night, I got in my BMW convertible, and then I rang my neighbor's doorbell with my car. And I went to jail, where I sat with a concussion and a blood alcohol level nearly 3 times the legal limit and a weight of shame I had never felt. I then completed 7 months of therapy, healing, and sobriety, yet I still didn't know how to move forward. It was 6 a.m. on Christmas Day, 2012. I was sitting in a village inn. Emotionally and mentally, I was spent. There was nothing left. I drove to my friend's apartment. I sat outside his door in 7-degree weather, and I texted him, "Hey, what you doing?" Thankfully, after just a few minutes of an awkward exchange, he figured out I was outside. He let me in. We spent 2 hours together. He preached into my heart and he prayed over my life. And that day I began to feverishly read the Bible and I gave my life to Christ. And in that moment, I felt changed immediately. The guilt and shame disappeared. The weight was lifted and my heart swelled up and I knew my life was going to be different. But how? I was an executive, a CEO, high-powered, high-urgency, type A, high-income earner. How would I allow my heart to be on fire for Jesus, but also crush my goals? How would I stand firm and be a changed woman when so many people knew me for my competitive, steamrolling, and relentless pursuit of winning? These 2 ladders represent my faith and the world. Up until Christmas Day 2012, I only ever knew this ladder. In fact, I met this ladder at 22 years old, and I thought this ladder was going to save my life. You see, I was raised in Northwest Indiana by an alcoholic mother and abusive father. On the outside, they seemed successful. My dad was an actor, an opera singer, appearing in several movies and shows. My mom was a classical pianist and choral director. The 2 owned a small business, a performing arts school, but their demons were greater than their talents. And everything came crashing down when I was 14. They lost everything. And we lost everything in an auction held in a massive red and white tent in our backyard. We fled Indiana to Boulder, Colorado. I didn't know anyone or much of anything outside of the performing arts. My brother and I had to start working and supporting ourselves. My parents filed for bankruptcy and took minimum wage jobs. I worked multiple part-time jobs and I danced my way through high school with straight A's and somehow survived it. But then, on April 24th, 2002, I was involved in a debilitating car accident caused by my careless driving, and it stripped my future away from me. No more dancing, no more future. And with no future and no direction, I entered the 4 darkest years of my life. I suffered from my own alcoholism, drugs, an abusive ex-marriage, and questionable job professions. I should have been dead or in jail, but God had a different plan. Although I didn't know him yet. Then, at 22 years old, I read an ad in a newspaper about an entry-level administrative role for a Fortune 1000 payroll company. That sales manager saw something in me I had never seen in myself, and I became the #1 rep in 30 days. This ladder of the world sure delivered on its promises, making me feel so special and accomplished. I left and took a VP of sales and marketing position. And I started my first company. At 28 years old, I was a CEO. I had money in my pocket. I had a fire in my soul. I ramped my business quickly. Why did the world let me take this hit and fall? I had tried so hard. I worked so hard, and I was tired. And he met me here. On the floor. He met me here, and he picked me up, and he brushed me off, and he held me, and he softly spoke to me, and he loved me. He picked me up from the ground and led me to his ladder. This ladder looked different. It felt light and without burden. I didn't see any darkness or turmoil or conflict on this ladder. In fact, it looked washed clean and white as snow. I got married, and on the first day back from my honeymoon, I started again at the same payroll company and the same role I left, with the same sales manager and the same team. But I felt split. And I started my second company, and this one took off. And. Something doesn't feel quite right. Make a choice, Mary. God had another wake-up call planned for me. He called it COVID-19. And starting March 17th, 2020, I entered into the worst 3 days. My business came crashing down, and I dove all in to save it. For 3 days, I barely slept. And I worked round the clock to navigate the relentless stream of client cancellations and uncertainty. I cried like I hadn't cried in years. I grieved a loss I couldn't put into words. I thought I had lost everything. And I sat on my knees in my living room, devastated, eyes swollen with tears. And I looked over at my son, 3 years old, as the light from the TV screen illuminated his face. And my heart, it sank further. Because I didn't even recognize him. I gave the world my heart and my talents and my time. And yet again, I was chewed up and I was spit out. And in my state of heartbreak, I knew where to turn. And I turned my palms up and prayed to the Lord on that floor to just take my company away. But God didn't take it away. That Sunday, my pastor led a series called Unshakable. I was all in. I heard every word. I wrote it all down and let the Holy Spirit convict my heart. Some of what I had built in my company was built with Him. He revealed to me what was good and helped me understand that what fell off and was no longer was never meant to be. Let me introduce you to the scale framework. S surrender. C is for commit. 3, abide. L, listen. And E, engage. As a Christian in the workplace, you have experienced trials, judgment, hardship. You may have overcome these obstacles, but have you really taken the opportunity to go all in with Him? I am here to invite you to take the first step toward that today. You can all experience heaven on earth. You can all be the love and light of Jesus in all workplace interactions. Let's go all in with Him. Let's do remarkable work. And let's be who we could have become.